Hi, this is Jesse. I'm with Orthogonal Research and Education Lab. I'll be talking today about methods and philosophy for embodied cognition. Apologies for doing this somewhat remotely or pre-recording it. Traveling for a bunch of things, and it's been hard to find a slot that works. But let's dive into this. A brief overview of today's talk is a little background in the Cognitive Science Project, competing schools of thoughts, what we're doing at Cognition Futures in the reading group, and sort of the eras of our current project. Um, we're doing a bit of a methods and philosophy project and kind of giving you an overview of where we are and why we're doing what we're doing. I kind of like to start with this paper a lot just because it's the title's great and Nunez has done quite a lot of stuff, and it sparked a lot of interesting discussion and feedback and pushback saying, oh no, cognitive science has moved forward. It's kind of a critique paper of the field, and it's questioning, from the cognitive revolution in the 50s, 60s and beyond, where did cognitive science go? Oops. I think I have actually, yeah, duplicate slide there. But and as we have a general sense of things, there's quite competing schools of thoughts. Um, Something that came up just a few panels ago, Josh Vanguard was, or others were asked, how do you feel about uh, things that aren't attributed to cells? Is it just a mind body problem? Josh Vanguard said, I'm identified as an illusionist. All that consciousness is an illusion. And there's many different branches of this. There's sort of classic uh, mind body problems. There's body body problems. We're looking at someone, Thomas Fuchs, who pushes quite a bit back against reductionism, and has a dual aspectivity approach that says no, there's sort of a certain inherent relationship to the environment and the internal and subjective takes on things. And so, as we know, in this field, there's quite a lot of different approaches and takes at our theories and philosophies of what's going on. It's kind of starting with that. And I did really like this comment where someone's like, "Oh, I'm sorry to drag you to philosophy," and Josh, to his credit, was like, "Oh no, you're elevating us to philosophy," and I'm like, "Yes," in the sense of a lot of the work we have to do is in that space, and a lot of the bigger question, kind of, we're all here is, how do we how do we have methods to sort of verify these philosophical works that we're trying to do? So for a little bit of Cognition Futures that started a couple years ago, we spent a lot of time sorting things out. It's this kind of a subgroup within Orthogonal Research Education Lab. We did some frontier map work, which I'll kind of briefly cover, which it was kind of mapping out how do we deal with, like, what happened to cybernetics, how do early career researchers get uh, um, context for things, where sort of this the showing of trajectory and understanding of why forks in the road were made certain ways. What was the zeitgeist of the environment at the time? We talk about AI summers and winters. What about cognitive science or linguistics summers and winters, and so on? What context are people missing? It's been a big question for that. And then I'm going to skip most of these things. These are sort of tools. I was working with different groups about how to like categorize papers and tag them. The need for a frontier map, like how do we create a general map for these kind of things? Do we have knowledge maps? Do we have all this work to do it? And this was kind of set up for a Cognition Futures project really quickly. And we had different takes on it. A few years ago, there was like the next decade in AI, neurosymbolic AI, also Gary Marcus as the critical person, and efforts to go forward on the AI side of things, and so on. But to get on where we're up to are now, um, we have a really wonderful reading group that was inspired by a critique of Varela. I missed the citation there, but basically the critique of Varela is saying, well, did cognitive science really embrace embodiment? And he was kind of suggesting, what are better methods to do that? I think he proposed um, like a video footage or different ways of getting footage that can create mediums for interaction and better understanding of in this case, the human being's personal experience. And a lot of the big issue in on becoming aware was, how do we get these sort of um, you know, phenomenological interviews. These ways of understanding someone's subjective experience in a more structured form that can relate to somewhat more empirical scientific work in that area. So it's sort of here's a philosophical sense of embodiment and a need, like, okay, what is a attempt at putting a methodology forward for that. The Verla and Depraz and Ramesh spent a lot of their time in the book saying, hey, you know, this is a work in progress. And we kind of wanted to see, well, okay, well, what has happened in that movement forward? Thomas Fuchs has been a bit really major polemic against reductionism, really saying no, the brain isn't doing it, it's the whole person. We have to see it at a person level. The brain offers a medium for relating, but we cannot just say, oh, the brain and the cells are doing this. And he uses these concepts of like horizontal and vertical causality and resonance and all of these ways to kind of try to frame things out as no, we have to see certain things as happening at the person and relational level outright. Um, and we're going back to the methods question specifically. Earlier today, I forget who it was. So I said, it seems the Embodied Intelligence conference has become the soft robotics conference, and like there's reasons why that's the case, because it's hard to find ways to push some of our theories and ideas forward. We talked about this in CogSci 2021. We did a review of the place of development in the history of psychology, cognitive science by Arienti. And we had this discussion about, like one of her conclusions was maybe in robotics, maybe in soft robotics or these other arenas, we can get a physical medium to test these things, which is kind of why we're all here and studying at this event. We kind of wanted to continue to look forward and push at things like we really wanted to examine the methods and the theories that they cut with them. We really wanted to. We had some great questions recently in our reading group and discussion group about the role of information theory. We talked about the critiques of sort of Varela's path and quest. I think Amanda, who's actually after me, fortunately, will dive a bit more into this. And Fuchs and reduction, we talked about a little bit. And we're kind of going to be going to these different eras of, as we're building out our project, which is sort of goal is to catalog and document some of these philosophical approaches, and the methods that are affording them or not. We want to have these different eras about, like looking at Fuchs and, can there be a science built off of the paradigms he's proposing? Or the role of development. Like, I think this is a really interesting paper we wanted to mention and take deep dive into, Vanessa Lux, a developmental framework for embodiment research, the next step of integrating these concepts and methods. These are the kind of things we're really trying to look at in our group going forward. And we've talked a bit about information theory, Gibsonian information, the role of like who is doing the comprehension, and all of these deeper questions. And so this is just a bit of a teaser and a preview. So for those who are interested in perhaps looking into this with us or want to see other work, here's some other work. Dr. Alicia has kind of spearheaded this paper on critical periods in neurodevelopment at A-Life 2023. I think it was a person earlier today or yesterday at this event. We have another one, like understanding the ghost in the machine, as opposed to, we had different titles about how to deal with ghosts in the machine. And separating the ghost from the machine and what is what. I'll end here and have plenty of room for questions later. But thank you. Thanks to our team, Amanda, Avery, Brian, Hussein, and everyone who's been in this group for a long time, and support from Diva Worm as well. So please reach out to us if you have questions. And we'd love to talk more about how your methods and your philosophy and research you're doing are related, and why you're choosing those methods and why they're choosing those philosophies within them. And we have some internships open as well, but happy to talk more later, and thanks so much for your time.